Hey, my name is Brent here on Cloudy with the Chance of Meeples. Today, joined by my wife Nicole, we will be heading once again to the land of Everdell, checking out the Spirecrest Mountains, the discoveries that will be made. Today, we're looking at the amazing expansion. Did I say that already? Anyways, before we get to the final forecast, we'll check out the radar overview for the Spirecrest expansion for Everdell. Time to cue the thunder. So the radar overview for Spirecrest, an expansion for Everdell, looks something like this. I'm just showing you the Spirecrest board. So this board would then fit on the bottom of the main Everdell board. You put it on the bottom, and then I'll show you what it exactly comes with. It comes with new critters. You got some foxes that I just threw on the floor. You have owls. You also have lizards, as well as moles. Let me just pick this fox up. There you go. I always call these the thriller foxes because it looks like he's doing the thriller action. But anyways, that's what you get. You get those for critter types, as well as you get rabbit travelers. These are the four in for these four types of critters, but you get a rabbit traveler for all of them in this box. You also get some big critters, which I'll explain how these things work momentarily. This game, or this expansion story, adds kind of a couple things. They're not modular. You must use them all. It adds weather effects, one for each season. I have all three of them right now, but you'd only use one per game. And then discovery cards, as well as charting tiles. Gameplay is exactly the same as base game Everdell. So if you don't know how to play base game Everdell, this review won't make as much sense to you. As I said, there are weather effects. So at the start of the game, there's always one flipped over. So you would shuffle these three, and you would pick one, and you would place it for face up. So in this game, it would start whenever you gain a resource from a forest location, gain one less resource. That's pretty terrible. There's other ones that don't even let you go to the forest location. So like that one is just brutal, but all of them are brutal, let's be honest. So this would be in effect, and you would have to abide by those rules. You would continue to play Everdell, and then most of this is triggered when a player moves into the next season. So when you move into the next season, after you have, redone or reactivated your production, as well as picked up cards in summer or whichever season you're going into, after you've done the normal stuff, then you visit the Spirecrest board. So, and the first thing you do is you chart. So if you're the first one, let's say this is set up for a two-player game. Get these guys out of the way. Two-player game, you would put three tiles here. You always put tiles equal to the number of players plus one. So the first player to go into spring, in this case, would flip these three over, and they could choose one of these three tiles. They would put it in front of them. Each player would get an expedition tile to start the game, and then you would just add these scrolls in front of you as you go. So at the end of the game, you'll have three. How do these work? You take one of these tiles, and at the end of the game, if you can pay the cost on it, you get the victory point is shown in the left. So if you take this one, any two resources gets you 2 victory points. This one would be discarding or paying two victory points to gain 3. So you're gaining 1. So you would take one of these, you would chart, it will come off the board, you put it in front of you, and then the next thing you do is you discover. That's where the fun comes in, because you get to discover 3 times each season, or 3 times each game. And you go to the foothills first. So as you can see, there's 3 notches here. You flip over these cards and you put them face up in these slots. And then you get to choose one of them. Okay, so the first one is always free. As you can see, there's no cost above that. The second one would cost you either 1 card or 1 resource, and then taking this third one would then cost you either 2 cards and 2 resources. So they all do different things. This is where the big critters come in. So if you would take this one, you would then get Stubblehoof and his card at the start of Prepare for Season. You may choose to leave Stubblehoof where he is and activate that location, also draw a card and gain a resource. So if you take this card, you pay again one one resource or one card, put it in front of you. These cards then just get discarded to the bottom of this stack. And then you take the big critter. And they come with, the Spirecrest comes with these saddles. So let's say I am the lizards. I would then, there you go. Because who does not want to see lizards riding a giant moose? So this would act then as your worker. You could place it anywhere on the board, much like any other worker. It wouldn't be an additional worker. It just acts as one of your normal workers. If you don't want to use the saddles, you could just use Stubblehoof in general and just make sure you're not using your extra critter. And then the final thing you do is you would then move along the track to the next spot. And then if you're the first one to do so, then you flip over the next weather. In this case, you may not play any cards from the meadow. Absolutely atrocious weather card. That is seriously so bad. So that's how you play Spirecrest, and then you go into the next season. You do the same thing. If you're the first one, you flip these things over, and then you do this whole charting again. Or you chart, and then you discover. You put your cards out here. You pay your resources. One of my favorite ones here, Gray Cloaks Hideout. More on my favorite cards in the final forecast. But that's how you play the Spirecrest expansion for Everdell. Game ends just like normal. At the end of the game, you will have, like I said, 3 of these tiles. And then you put your Rabbit Traveler. You put him here once he come off the board, and then depending on how far you can go, that is how many victory points you would get. You would again have to discard. So if you had 3 victory points but not 5 berries, you can't skip that one. You would then just do this one. Regardless if you can do the last one, you must go in order. You add those scores to the rest of your score, and then whoever is the or whoever has the most points is the winner. I'll show you a couple of these other big critters because they're awesome. You got Coriander, you got Windlowers and Eagle, King Rune, pretty cool. Honeypaw, Big Bear. Let's see these Truffle, as well as Firebeak, and finally Whisper. This is the collector's edition, so some of these big critters aren't available in the standard one. I'll put the fox. There you go. Who'd ever thought you'd see a fox riding on a vulture? There you are, on to the final forecast. So that is the radar overview for Spirecrest. Expansion for Everdell, the 3rd expansion for Everdell. I will say this is the collector's edition of the Spirecrest expansion. It's got a few of these extra big critters, as well as a few extra discovery cards. So be mindful of that. Speaking of those big critters, that is actually the reason I got into Everdell. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Totally no word of a lie. Those I remember seeing on Kickstarter, and I was like, that's pretty cool. A giant bear that you can ride your little like...
I remember him coming to me and being like, Nicole, look at this. This little bird can ride this bear on a saddle.
But at that point, it was just a Kickstarter page. It was just a Kickstarter page. I actually backed this expansion as well as the Belfair expansion simultaneously. I backed it before I owned Everdell, before I had ever played Everdell. I just thought that was that cool.
Yeah, this is the eternal optimist right here. This is going to be great.
It's going to be great.
And it was.
And it was. It absolutely is a fantastic expansion. Before I jumped too far ahead, or we jumped too far ahead. So
yeah, let's back it up.
Okay, let's back this up. Okay, so the main thing in this expansion are those discovery cards and the Rabbit Traveler going on that journey through the Spirecrest Mountains, and then of course the thing that you don't like, the weather.
But you know what? I like it, but I don't like it.
Right.
It's a love-hate.
Yes. It's like, oh man, every time we play, we just like flip over that first one and like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me.
Every time. It doesn't matter what it is.
And then it's like...
It's always the same reaction.
Someone moves into spring and they do all their things and let's flip over the weather card and they flip it over. Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just a great challenge.
They are terrible.
Some of them are... Some of them
but
are
wonderful.
Some of them are worse than others. Yes. Like,
fire.
When you get to autumn and the forest fire or wildfire or whatever it is, and you lose a worker.
Yeah. And
then you're down to 4 workers for
and
that. And
you're
last
already
season.
like struggling through the game. And you're like, this is not going to end well for me.
Some of them are awful. And I love it. Like, I seriously love the challenge
it's a
every
good challenge.
time.
Yeah.
Because, again, not to say that this game is easy by any means. Like, there's lots to think about. But when you have, like, that extra thing to think about, that, you know, your production cards don't activate in summer.
Yeah.
Like, man, like... You just so badly want those to just progress your game, and then you just get hosed with that. So I love the weather. I love the extra challenge.
It's interesting.
I love those discovery cards. Like every time, it's like, ooh, what am I gonna get? And I love how you. I guess it's not a push your luck, but I love it how you take the first one, it's free. You take the second one. You know, costs a resource or a card, and the third one is like two reasons, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and sometimes you just luck out, and you know the free one is.
There's a bit of a strategy there. Like you gotta weigh, you know, the cost, right?
Right.
Is this worth, you know, me paying 2 resources or 2 cards? We have a friend who will remain nameless. He always grabs that first. I shouldn't say always, but
most
90% of the time,
he picks the free one.
That first card because he's like, I'm not paying for any card, right? So and it's hilarious because sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it's like, oh, that card kind of sucks, but whatever. Yeah.
But speaking of those, okay, so what would you say is your favorite? We'll dive into each of these 3 decks first. So. The first one, I don't remember what it's called, the ridge or the peak, or I don't know what it is.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, so the first time you move into spring, well, you only move into spring once, but when you move into spring, what would you say your favorite card of those ones is?
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer for me. Wow, I sound like I know the game so well because I do, because I played it so
many
much.
times.
The Mountaineer.
Yeah, so the Mountaineer lets you... Like, you don't have to deal with the weather in the next season, so that's amazing. And then
that's why I love it so much.
And then you gain 2 cards in the next season,
in the summer one.
And so those ones are kind of like, I don't know, to me the most exciting cards. So the Mountaineer for you?
Yeah, I love the Mountaineer.
For me, it will be Stubblehoof. It's a big critter, and it's this giant moose. And I love his ability. I love it
because it's a moose.
No, I don't love it because it's a moose. I
think you do.
No, I don't. I love it because you put it on the board, and then you're blocking people. So, you know, again, people have said in the past, oh, Everdell, it's not much interaction. You just kind of work around people. Stubblehoof, I think, is like great. You put him on there.
Yeah, he is cool. I like Stubblehoof.
And then when you move into the next season, you can either keep him there and reactivate it and draw a card and a resource, or you pull him back. But sometimes you just absolutely love blocking. Like
sometimes there's a really good forest location.
The one that I'm thinking of is the one where you can reactivate 2 of your production cards. You put him there, you activate 2 cards plus a resource plus a card. Yeah. And you're like denying your opponents a chance to use that.
There's always a way around it because you can build the lookout and you can do these things where you can copy.
The lookout? No, lookout copies basic locations.
Never mind, just forget what I
said. But you know what? No, like Whisper allows you to move around there. But but yeah, so that's your favorite Mountaineer. I love Stubblehoof. Yep. How about the next sets?
I like, this is kind of a weird card that I don't think...
Coriander?
Is
that a weird card?
Is that your guess?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's Coriander.
Okay.
So, basically, I mean, so when I play Everdell, I'm not one to go for events usually because, I don't know, I just don't.
Right.
But if I have Coriander, then I go for all the events, obviously, because they're all half price.
Right. So, and you know what? The first few times, like Coriander, it comes out and you're like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Like, you have to take her because why wouldn't you gain an event for half the cost? If you can get the Everdell games for only 1 of each in your city, that's 9 victory points. And but we've seen many games with the person with Coriander not actually winning.
Yeah,
so the first time that card comes out, you're like, oh, that's a no-brainer. You got to take it. But it's maybe
totally
not.
Totally depends on the game.
It totally does. So,
but if Corleander comes up, I'm picking her every time.
Yeah, Corleander. For me, it's not Corleander, although that is a great great card to choose. It is the Gray Cloaks Hideout.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, to me, again, so good. It allows you to move a deployed worker and reactivate the space that was already on. So it pretty much is an extra worker. And so if you can play this right, and you can, plan ahead a little bit with where you're going to place your car or place your critter, you can absolutely make bank. Again, it comes back to the once forced location where you can reactivate 2 production cards.
And depending what you have in your
city, you can put a worker on that forced location and then move it to the Gray Cloaks Hideout to use it again, and just that's my favorite one in
or if you have some really good cards to reactivate that are like really powerful, then
like the Town Crier, or
you can win that way.
Like so good. Okay, and then finally the final one, I think it's the Ridge. What's your favorite card on that one?
I like the Cave of Dancing Lights, I think it's called.
Yep. The just because you like the squirrel, he's cute, or what?
That's not why, no.
It is why.
No. He's cute, but no. You get 4 resources. Yeah. And you know what? At that stage in the game, I'm usually like out of resources.
Well, you're heading in, so your production is
But guys, sometimes I don't have production.
You always have to farm though, so you're getting at least 1 berry.
1 berry doesn't help me at the end of the game. So it's nice to have those extras. I just love, and part of me just loves the cards where you're drawing cards to see what comes up. Like, I just love the mystery of that. So.
And speaking of drawing cards, mine's actually kind of a tie heading into the last one. A lot of those cards are victory point cards, but I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say? Mine is kind of 2 cards. It's the Bounty Hunter, and I think it's called Cloud Song. It's the 2 cards. Bounty Hunter lets you just name a critter in the deck, and then just go through the deck, and if it's there, you draw it into your hand, even if your hand is full. And then the Cloud, I think it's Cloud Song. It lets you do the same thing for construction. So if typically you're like, I need the ranger, or maybe you need like the dungeon or the university, or just different cards. If you get the construction one, or if you get the one, the bounty hunter one,
those are good.
Depending, and it's kind of a push your luck, because if your opponent's taken those cards and discarded them, you're wasting, right? Yeah. You don't know that, so you're kind of pressing your luck that you can find a specific card in the deck. So those are just a few of the cards that we like.
So many good ones though.
It's just great every time we play Spirecrest.
Kind of makes up for the weathers.
It does, and like there's so many cool big critters. Honeypaw the bear lets you gain berries if you didn't gain a berry. So then, if you go to the 3 twigs, you gain 3 twigs and 3 berries, and with 1 worker.
Yep.
And
I
so
had Honeypaw a couple times ago. That was awesome.
Yeah, so just a lot of stuff to look into and to explore. And then, of course, as you're going on this journey, your expedition.
Yeah.
You're collecting these little map tiles, and you need to make sure that you can...
Just another challenge for you.
Just another challenge to save certain resources or certain amount of cards or victory points, so you can, discard those at the end to gain even more resources. But overall, Spirecrest, I personally would say, is my favorite Everdell expansion. And
it's mine too.
It really is that good. It's that challenging. Mm-hmm. And just, we have an absolute blast every time we play Spirecrest. Every time we play Everdell in general.
Yeah, true.
And if I had to rank them, Spirecrest would be really would absolutely be number 1. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because it's the one that I kind of drew me into Everdell, so I kind of have that,
nostalgic.
The nostalgia, the taste of nostalgia. I'd love it. But check it out if you haven't played Spirecrest for Everdell. We highly recommend it.
Yeah.
We've given this game like 100%. It's an absolute amazing game. By far our favorite game. We've played it over 120 times in the last year and a bit. So it is truly that good. And Spirecrest just makes it that much fun.
more fun,
get all the
funner, whatever. Get them all. If you had to choose one to get first, I would say
Belfair.
You'd say Belfair. Belfair has the
first,
modules. Yeah. But if you had to choose Spirecrest or
if you're only
gonna
get one,
if you're only gonna get one,
Spirecrest.
Get Spirecrest. And the collector edition is seriously where it's at. So that's what we have to say on Spirecrest, the expansion for Everdell. Overall, fantastic.
Awesome.
Thanks once again, Nicole, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Check us out on Facebook, Cloudy with a Chance of Meeples. My name is Brent. Remember, grab your umbrella. The forecast is cloudy with a chance of meeples.